Hi, and welcome back to season two of the Everything and Anything and a Bit Gay podcast. I'm very excited today to have a new guest that you haven't heard from in the last season. One of my very good friends who I've known for over 30 years. He was actually one of my first gay friends. Welcome, Tony Sanchez.
Hi there. I didn't know I was gay, but
Yeah,
thanks for
oh,
letting me
you're
know.
very gay.
Oh, wow.
Extremely. Yeah. So Tony and I met on this um, before there were apps where you could go on and meet people. We met
Megaphone.
exactly. We met on this phone line that you call in called the megaphone, and we met in front of a club in Miami, South Miami, called Ozone. And we met, and I think maybe we met because because you couldn't see what each other looked like. There was no computers, so we met, and we automatically knew we were friends. I know he had some attraction to me, and I could tell that he was in love with me, but I quickly shut that down and made sure that he knew that this was only a friendship. So, through 30 plus years of being friends and going through lots of life changes, we are still very good friends. And the funny thing is that we both ended up in Boston several years ago. We both left Boston and we ended up coming back to Boston at the very same month this year or this past year. So we're back together again.
Yeah, Zach
Yay.
tends to follow me wherever I go, so you know, I wasn't surprised.
So today I wanted to talk about some great events that's happened in Tony's life. So Tony has two daughters. You want to tell us a little bit about your daughters?
Sure. My oldest is named Guinevere, and my youngest is named Priscilla.
And how old are they?
Gwen is 11. Priscilla is 9.
Awesome. And Tony is married. He has a husband who his name is Avellino, and they live right outside of Boston. And when they met, how long have you been together with Avellino?
Oh my God, you're putting me on the spot now. I would say 2006. Do the math.
Okay.
I
So
can't.
a long time. And uh, Tony has always wanted to have children. Even when we were in our 20s, he would always talk about he wants this, he wants that, and he had a goal of having a child. When did you start really thinking, oh, I want a child? Like, were you in high school thinking one day I want to have a kid? Were you in your 20s? Like, when did you really think that you wanted to have a child as part of your life?
I think probably in my mid 20s. I knew I always wanted the perfect relationship. I'm always looking for the one,
Mm-hmm.
which where there were several the ones.
There were several ones. Yes.
And I knew I always wanted a family. It was just something I've always wanted, something in my blood that I always wanted a family. And
And so Tony and Avellino met. This is one of the many people Tony recycled through in Miami. Many, as I'll just say, there are many.
I'll
And
just say, as many as I.
okay, and then we he ended up meeting Avellino, and they were together, and they ended up moving in together, and I guess Tony, you said I want to have children, and Avellino felt the same. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've always, ever since we met, we've talked about family, even from the beginning. And we always knew we wanted children one way or another. So,
And obviously, they couldn't have children the way that a man and a woman couple would have children, so they had to think about other alternatives. So, kind of tell me about your process that you were thinking about. Were you thinking about adoption? Were you thinking about surrogacy? Like, did you go through all that?
we decided initially to do adoption through the state of Massachusetts. And we took to do adoption, you have to go through a fostering class first. And it's a 10-week course once a week for 2 to 3 hours, if I recall. Um, and we took the course, and everything was great. We've always told our social workers there always we were open to all ages of kids, but we wanted to start with either a baby or a 2 or 3 year old.
Okay.
Towards the end, then when we finished the process, they kept trying to push on us older kids, which we were okay with, but we told them what our initial plans were. So we told them no, we want younger kids, and we're open to older ones later on. But and finally they confessed. Avelino is disabled because of a stroke he had. So since he would be the primary caretaker, they didn't think he can take care of a baby.
Okay.
And since I was a primary breadwinner and I wouldn't be there all the time, they had those concerns. So a few strong conversations and expletives later with them, we decided to go a different way. So I looked
Okay.
at private adoption. Private adoption was doable, but it was quite expensive.
Yeah.
It was back then anyway. It was about $30,000.
Wow.
And so then I remembered something I saw years back, something called Google Baby. So I did my research, I found it again, and it was doing surrogacy abroad. So I made a few phone calls, did a little research, and we decided on doing surrogacy in India.
And
India,
why didn't you think about surrogacy here in the US? Because of the cost?
we did. The cost here back then, I don't know about now, back then with everything included, it was between 150 to 200,000,
Oh my goodness.
and that was I thought it was ridiculous and way too much.
That's ridiculous. 2 kids is a house in some places in the country.
Yeah. So I made my phone calls, did a little research, and we found this agency in India and this hospital, and they invited us to come visit them before we gave them any money. And since they were the only ones that did that, we jumped on a plane and flew over. We met them. They held our hands through the whole process. We were there initially for a week.
Where in India
Um,
was it?
it was Mumbai.
Okay.
And we were there for a week. They gave us a tour. They were with us 24/7. And we decided to go ahead and go with them. So we gave them a monetary deposit, and then we gave them another deposit, if you know what I
I
mean.
know what you mean.
Um, and then we left and flew back.
And did
And
you both give a deposit of sperm, or did you, decide, "Oh, I want this one," or "He wants that one," or how did you decide?
so we did because we were thinking, okay, we'll both do it at the same time. And if we get two kids at the same time out of it, great.
Okay.
So IVF is not I decide I'm going to do IVF and I'm going to have a child. There's a lot of ups and downs with IVF.
Yeah.
The first few cycles failed for both of us.
Okay.
And there were twins at some point and more twins, and those failed. And then
And
we
this is
only
with Guinevere, your first child that this
this
is all.
this was with Gwen.
Okay.
And then we had one cycle left, and we were all nervous about it. And we just decided, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's be because we were. It's up and downs with IVF,
Yep.
with all the failures, and we just had one left, and we said, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's get this embryo in, see what happens. And we got it, and about 8.5 months later, we flew back to India for
Okay.
the C-section. It was a planned C-section. We were there for it.
Okay.
Yeah, and we were there when they brought her out of the OR, and we didn't know if she was a boy or a girl because in India, by law, they can't tell you the sex of the baby
Okay.
in utero. So we had two names picked out. So
What was the boy name?
Jareth was the boy name.
And, did you spend any time with the mother that gave birth to Guinevere at all?
No, so the surrogate was not the biological mother. We used an egg donor from someone
Okay.
else.
And the egg donor was from India as well?
Yes, she was.
And then did you meet the surrogate?
We did meet the surrogate, and we talked to her for a little bit before and for a little bit after. I even asked her, does she mind if I stand in the OR while they do the C-section? Because I'm used
Yeah.
to it. And she wasn't thrilled by. It's like, oh, that's okay. If you don't want me to, that's okay. I'll just wait outside. But we took pictures with her afterwards. We gave her a gift afterwards, and so forth.
And do you have her contact information? I mean, I know that Gwen has no connection to her, but do you have her contact information in case one day Gwen does want to, like, oh, I would like to meet who carried me for 9 months in their body.
No, we don't
Okay.
have that. The It's kind of a big process, and we decided at the beginning that if she wanted to do that, we can give her the name of the agency, but we decided long ago that it's just going to
Yeah.
be us and nobody else.
And do you know, like, if Gwen is your biological child or if it's Avelino? And if you don't want to say on the show, you don't have to.
That's a secret we're keeping to ourselves.
Okay, good. I understand that. And then you brought Guinevere home after she had a normal delivery, correct? And everything was fine with Guinevere because it was a C-section.
Yes.
And you brought her home back on the flight, and you and Avelina both went over to pick her up, correct?
We did. We both went. We stayed when we went to pick her up for the C-section. We were in India for about a month. We stayed at a nice hotel. They have really nice hotels there, by the way. And the hospital was a pretty nice hospital. I didn't know what to expect, but I
Yep.
was really surprised. They were really state of the art. Um, the When Gwen came back, because we had to go through the U.S. Embassy and some more paperwork and documents. She came back as an American citizen. She's called birth abroad.
Okay.
So anyone that has American citizen parents and
Yep.
is born abroad can come back as an American citizen. So she
Okay.
came back with a U.S. passport.
Awesome. And if you do you have any idea who the or who the mother that gave the egg is? Like, did they tell you any information about her?
Well, yeah, we chose her. We got many applicants at the
Okay.
beginning of the process, so we're the ones that chose the applicant.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. And do you know who she is? Like, do you have her contact information in case one day Gwen would like to see, like, who her quote unquote biological mother is?
No, in these countries, they usually don't keep too much information,
Yeah, I can
so
imagine.
I doubt that's even possible.
Okay, so you bring home Gwen. You're very happy, but you still want another child. So how did that conversation go?
We always knew we wanted another child, and I'm trying to remember the sequence of events that led to it, because another deposits have to be had to be made. I think we did that before we left India with Gwen,
Okay.
and those were just frozen until we were ready for the next one. And we waited about a year and a half or two, and well, they're 2 years apart, so maybe a year. We waited, and we decided it was time for the next one, and we were very surprised. We got twins, and
Right.
yeah, and the twins were born.
And
They were
did you know whose sperm worked for the twins or no?
That's a secret too.
But no, I know, but I know you know, but during that time, did they tell you this was your sperm or this was Avelino's sperm? Did you know before?
Yes,
Okay. And India is fine as a country to let a gay man adopt. Can you talk about that a little bit?
sure. So in India, with our first one, a lot of couples would go to India for surrogacy, just because the way it was first much cheaper than anywhere else.
Yeah.
Um,
What was
the,
the cost difference? So if it was 150 to 200,000 here in the US, like, what is it in India?
so in India, with everything included, meaning the doctors, the hospitals,
Mhm.
the surrogates, the egg donor, all of those came to about $30,000.
Wow, what a huge difference.
Yeah, and the U.S. dollar goes a long way over there,
Yeah,
and it was just a no-brainer for us at that moment.
awesome. Okay, so then going back to Priscilla, the second one, you ended up finding out that you had twins coming,
Yep.
and go ahead and continue where you left off. So you knew this woman was the embryo took, and you were going to have twins, and
Yep.
then and this woman was in Mumbai as well.
She was in New Delhi.
New Delhi. Okay, she was in New
New Delhi.
Delhi. And so
Yes.
your original plan was that you were going to fly to New Delhi when the baby was born to get it, but there was a law change or something, right, in
Right.
India?
So in India, like with our firstborn, there was really no laws, but I and all gay couples, straight couples, single individuals would go have surrogacy done over there.
Yep.
So the government thought that their citizens were being abused or not being paid well or something
Okay.
like that. So they passed all these laws. So that kind of almost killed the surrogacy business in India. Not
Okay.
completely, because there's laws and there's ways to bend the laws to
Yep.
your favor, and we kind of bent the law to our favor. Um, the surrogacy did take place in India, but we moved the surrogate to surrogate housing in Kathmandu, Nepal.
Wow. Okay. And so because it was legal still in Kathmandu, Nepal,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. There's no laws there that I can
And
recall.
you moved her there throughout her pregnancy or whenever she was.
Yeah, we moved her there for her pregnancy.
So how pregnant was she when you moved her there? And are you paying for her to live there for several
Yeah,
months?
yeah, we pay for everything. In surrogate housing, when the surrogate has to agree to this, they are taken to surrogate housing, which they're provided meals,
Okay.
a place to sleep. They can bring their children with them if they have their own children.
Oh, interesting.
They recommend that if they do have children, to bring a caretaker with them. It could be their mother, an aunt, or friend to help with
Okay.
the kids. And they're there, and the doctors and the nurses look after them while they're there.
Wow, that's amazing because that wouldn't happen in the US. Because in the
Yeah.
US, you have a surrogate and she could go out and drink and do whatever. You would never know. I mean,
Well, that's one of the reasons why surrogate housing was so important, because they can watch her there.
yeah, that's what I mean. And they
Yeah,
can make sure she's getting the right food and nutrition and
yeah, yeah,
vitamins and stuff. That's great.
yeah.
And so the surrogate mother was moved from New Delhi over to Kathmandu, Nepal, and she was in this surrogate housing. And then, um, when did you like? Was she delivered on time? Was she early? You said there was twins. Can you tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about that?
Sure. So from what the agency tells me, she was a difficult surrogate. She demanded a lot. When we moved to Nepal, she wasn't happy, but she went. Um, she developed high blood pressure, which made the doctors deliver early. So they had to do an emergency C-section when she was 29 weeks
Oh
along.
wow.
So they were both born in 29 weeks, a
Okay.
boy and a girl.
Okay.
And 10 days later, the boy passed away due to some complications.
Okay.
But the girl survived and thrived. And
And were
she,
you already in Nepal when they were born, or you didn't come till after they were born?
no, we went after they were born because it was an emergent.
Yeah.
And I was at work actually when they were trying to get a hold of me, and I couldn't respond right away
Okay.
to let me know.
And
Uh,
Nepal's not a short flight. It isn't like you can just jump on a plane
no,
and
no,
just go there the next
no.
morning.
No, there's no direct flights from here to Nepal or Nepal to here. You have to stop. Our usual midway stop was in Istanbul, Turkey, in the
Okay.
airport. But yeah, we eventually went when uh, unfortunately by the time we got there, the little boy had passed away.
Okay.
But they let us see him, and we got to hold him,
Okay.
and then we cremated his remains.
Okay.
And funny thing, I brought his remains back with us. And at the airport, they were searching our bags in Nepal, and the remains were in a plastic container.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh my god, should I tell them what this is or not? I'm like, uh, I was just
Did they
it was
ask you?
no. And the funny thing is that they took my hair gel, but not the ashes.
And
Which
we have a hair gel story in another episode that we can talk about too, but not in this one. So
oh, can I talk about your broom story?
that's your broom story. But anyway, so you flew back. You were flying back with a premature baby on
Well,
a
she wasn't. I mean, she was a preemie, but by the time we brought her back, she
yes.
was about. She stayed about 2 months in Nepal
Okay.
before we went back a second time and picked her up. And when we
Okay.
went back a second time to pick her up, the U.S. Embassy, I was in communication with them every day or every other day, and they were very good with us. They let us do because uh, something I forgot to mention. We also do DNA testing, which is mandatory
Okay.
by the U.S.
To
Embassy.
show that you or Evelina are the father.
Right? Yes, or else
Okay.
they won't get their U.S. Passport.
I see.
And the U.S. Embassy was very because we would have to be present, but knowing everything that's happened, they were very kind and they went themselves. I gave them permission to enter to get the blood they needed and so forth.
Okay.
I did. We did our part on this end when it comes to the DNA testing. So by the time we went to pick up Priscilla, everything was done. We were there for a week, which surprised me, and then we just got our her passport and we go, oh, time to go.
And what was it like being in Kathmandu? I mean, I've been to Mumbai before, but I've never been to Kathmandu. Was it a kind of a crazy experience going to a country that you've never been to and picking up a child? I mean, what was your feelings?
Since I never saw the hospital in Kathmandu and going through Kathmandu streets, I was totally expecting the worst.
Okay.
But when the cab made a turn around the corner, I saw this big building, and that was a hospital. And when we went in, it was all state of the art
Okay.
equipment again, which again surprised me. And so the hospital expenses were separate expenses than what we originally paid. So we had to pay a little bit more directly to the hospital.
Okay. But overall, I mean, the country is not a very wealthy country, and there's a lot of poverty in Kathmandu.
Oh
I
yeah.
assume, right? So were you just kind of like, I want to get out of here because you just want to get back with your with Priscilla and start your life?
Um, yeah, we just wanted to get out as quickly as possible. Kathmandu reminded me of India, the streets in India,
Okay.
but a little bit more cleaner air, I would say.
Oh yeah, in Mumbai, you can see the air, which is I always thought was
Yeah,
a little crazy that you can
you can
actually
taste it.
see. Yeah, you can taste
Yeah,
it and see it. So
yeah.
great. And then so now you have two kids, Priscilla and Gwen, and they're very happy living with you both. I just wanted to announce to let everybody know I am the godfather of Guinevere. So whenever Tony is pushed over the edge of a cruise ship one day by accident, and I will have the children will be mine and all the money.
I think you got something wrong there. I think you're the fairy godmother.
Whatever, as long as I get the money. Because I'm gonna get the money and send those kids to boarding school. That's what I'm doing. So,
We're never going on a cruise ship with you. I can tell you that.
but there are fabulous kids, and they're really great. And Guinevere is starting to get it. She's in her preteen years now, and she's getting a little bit moody and stuff. And we can tell everybody that she started her period, and you've had to go through that experience as a gay father trying to figure that out, which I thought was an interesting conversation because you've
That
obviously haven't had that experience in your life, and so you had to figure it out and what to do.
yeah, I've watched a lot of videos, talked to a lot of aunties and some friends, and learned a lot of stuff. So when it came, we were I don't think you can ever be ready for it, but
Yeah.
we were somewhat ready for it.
And do you, I mean, after you had Guinevere and you came back, did you ever think about maybe we should try for a third or two was enough?
I think we probably would have had more. I think what probably stopped us was the death of the little boy, the twin. That's
Did he have a name, or did you name him?
yeah. We gave him the name Jareth.
Okay. Well, anything else you'd wanna tell somebody that's looking to do surrogacy as a gay couple or even a single person or even a straight couple? Like, what would you tell them to do? Would you suggest going to India to do this since it's so expensive in the US? Have you heard of any other countries that would do this other than India at this point?
Yeah, there are tons of countries that do surrogacy for Americans. There is Mexico, Thailand is big. I don't know if India does it anymore. I don't know if it changed again. Uh, I would suggest to do a lot of research when it comes to surrogacy. I know, adoption's always there and so forth,
Yeah,
but sometimes, you know, individuals may want a child of their own,
yeah,
and surrogacy is a great way to do it. And it's expensive here in the U.S., but if you go abroad, it's much, much less expensive than it
yeah.
is here, and probably I would say more organized than it
I
is
wonder
here.
if Mexico does it just because
It
it's so
does.
easy. Oh, it does? Okay, because it's so easy to
They
get
do.
there from the US that
Yeah.
that would be a
There's a
much easier
province.
flight than going to India or Nepal or Asia.
Yeah, we actually were looking for a third at a while back ago, but we decided against it, and we were looking in Mexico. There's a province in Mexico that allows surrogacy.
That's great.
Yeah.
Anything else you would give somebody that's, just keep researching? Is that basically your how you'd like to end it, just to tell people to research and find the right center to do this?
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of centers here in the US, but I know money is always a big thing. I would suggest you do your research. Look at Google Baby. I know that's old, but it will give you an idea. And if you type in Google search surrogacy abroad, you'll
Okay.
get hundreds of hits. Another thing is also if you're not interested in going abroad and you're really interested in doing here, there are also lenders that will lend you money to do surrogacy as well.
Mm, interesting.
It's just that expensive. So that's also an option to look into.
Well, this was a very fascinating story. I think this is gonna resonate with a lot of listeners, just the story of being able to go out and to another country
Mhm.
and then having to move your second child to another country because laws changed and I think it's just so interesting and congratulations, obviously we love the girls and you love the girls and it's amazing that you were able to fulfill your dream that you had since you were in your mid-20s, so that's great.
Oh, thank you so much. And they
Well,
love their aunties.
thanks for being on, Tony. This is the first episode of season 2, but this season I have lots of great shows planned out. I'm going to have a guy that I've met on TikTok that does future husband videos. He's looking for a future husband. His screen name is Ginger Ale and his real name is Kevin, and I'm going to have him on this season. I'm also going to talk a little bit about being an expat when I lived in Switzerland for a year and talk about my experience. And then my friend Amy's going to join me on the show, and we're going to talk about being married to someone that has kids and they have to live in a separate home during the week due to custody and school districts. So she's going to come on and talk to me about that. My friend Jen's also going to come on, and we're going to talk about when I moved from Miami to New York in a U-Haul, had no apartment, and that whole adventure. And we'll go through that. And I'm also taking a class to be on mediumship on actually how to become a medium. So I will tell you, I'm only in my second week out of 12 weeks for this class. So whenever I wrap that up, I'll come on and tell you if I can speak to spirits or talk to the world beyond. So thanks for Tony for being on. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me. And we should have a show just about you.
Every show is about me. So thanks for being on. Thanks everybody for listening. Be sure to go to your favorite podcast platform, subscribe to my show. Thanks for listening. Have a good day.